Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This evening I'm going to be doing another movie review. This movie is a sci-fi horror film from Canada, English language, released in the year 2010, directed by Panos Cosmatos, and this film is called Beyond the Black Rainbow. So Beyond the Black Rainbow is about the Arboria Institute. This is a commune that is very secluded that specialises in mental health and eternal happiness. So the psychiatrist involved, he has this main patient who's kept in a catatonic state because she's very powerful. She has telekinetic power. So the more she's numb, more control this psychiatrist has over her, but as time goes by, he's finding it increasingly difficult to control her, and she starts to do things that start to make this psychiatrist panic. And the more he panics, the more we actually see his true intentions. And so those intentions are quite dark, and whether or not he achieves what he sets out is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on Beyond the Black Rainbow. Panos Cosmatos is not a director that I'm completely won over by. I definitely feel as though he's a director that's style over substance. I watched a movie called Mandy with Nicolas Cage that I thought was all right. As far as visuals are concerned, very, very interesting. But as far as the story is concerned, a little bit jumbled. So it's definitely, I feel as though you're trying to distract you with all these really surreal imagery and not really having anything of substance within a story. And so coming into Beyond the Black Rainbow, I was expecting the same sort of thing. But the reason why I like Panos Cosmatos is that although I'm not overly won by his movies, his style actually takes me back to a really dark period in my life. When I was a child, I had something called severe croup, where I just couldn't breathe properly. I was actually rushed to hospital numerous times. And I can still remember those fever-pitched dreams I had when I had a bout of croup. And so that lack of oxygen was just making me feel, a sense of hopelessness. And that's something I can still remember to this day. And when I watch a Panos Cosmatos film, it actually takes me back to that childhood. So it's a very uneasy feeling that I get from this director. The director uses very vibrant colouring and just very, very surreal imagery, and yes, a very freaky sort of imagery. And so it's a genuine horror film that this director actually creates. His world is something you don't want to be a part of, but it absorbs you in a very hypnotic way. This movie and the movie Mandy takes you back to a trip to the 70s and 80s science fiction horror. So if you like that kind of thing, Panos Cosmatos is definitely a director that will gravitate to you as far as visualizing a world that is very dark and unforgiving in a very brutal world. It doesn't need violence on screen to actually hit that brutality, because it just feels as though you're trapped and you need to scream, but you just can't scream, or you can scream but no one can hear you. And so that's, for me, what I gravitate to Panos Cosmatos. Is I like horror movies that make me feel uneasy, but this is a director that actually makes me feel uneasy and takes me back to my darkest days. And so that's something that on one side I can appreciate, but on the other side I don't really want to relive those days. But when I watch these movies, this is the feeling that I get, and that's the feeling that I got from Beyond the Black Rainbow. This is a nod to 70s, as I said, horror, and so if you like that kind of thing, the retro style, then this is definitely going to appeal to you. I thought it was very strange, very slow and quirky. And so if you are after a traditional horror film, you're not going to like it. And I thought the acting was actually fairly decent. It all just feels uneasy. It feels off. It doesn't quite feel real. It feels as though you're in a fever-pitched dream, or you've taken drugs and you're just on a hallucinatory trip. And so this is a film that strikes you with a lot of curiosity. The visuals create that curiosity as well. You're not quite sure where this director is taking you. And unfortunately, that's the issue with this movie, is that I don't feel as though Panos Cosmatos had a clear direction into where he wanted to go as far as the story is concerned. Much like Mandy, the movie is all about visuals and just hitting you with very different aspects of filmmaking on a production level, but as far as a storyline is concerned, I thought it was very weak. And this is the issue I have with Panos Cosmatos. That style over substance is definitely the killer in Beyond the Black Rainbow. This is a movie that goes at a very, very tedious speed. There are moments that are in slow motion that I thought were very unnecessary. It's like, the point he's trying to make, but he's just taking the very long way to get there. And so I felt as though this is a director that does fall into the pretentious category, in that he does have a style and he's showing off that style in a way where you start to notice that he doesn't really have any other tricks up his sleeve. And so Beyond the Black Rainbow, yes, it looks very good. It induces that fever-pitch nightmare. It took me back to my real dark days, which not a lot of horror films can do. But it just doesn't have that story. And in Mandy, his other movie, it just didn't have the story that I felt as though it complemented the visuals. So I feel as though it's only half of a movie that Panos Cosmatos has been able to make. He doesn't have that other half to really complement his strengths, and therefore it becomes quite a chore to watch. So if you're after very visually arresting films, then this is for you, but it's just way too long for its own good. If you're going to make a visual film, make it for an hour or so, but when you make it for 100 odd minutes, then ultimately you're going to have an issue because it's going to outstay its welcome. So at the end of it, I just thought as though, thank God that was over. And I just thought as though the positive that this movie has doesn't quite get it over the line. So overall, for Beyond the Black Rainbow, going to give this one 2 stars. Not a terrible film, but unfortunately just a little bit style over substance. All right, guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.